I wanted to talk to you today about the importance of self-compassion. And if you were raised in a chaotic and dysfunctional environment like I was, where there was either mental illness or abuse, you may think that self-compassion is for wimps and that the only way to get yourself to change your behaviors or get in line is to trash talk yourself or beat yourself up. I have news for you. It's not. You may not know about this, but science has proven that it's our parents and our caregivers that actually teach us how to love and how to accept love, to receive affection and to be comfortable with that. And back in 1944, there was a study that was done on 40 babies. And the purpose of the study was to determine whether babies could survive by getting all of their physiological needs satisfied. That's bathing them, clothing them, making sure that they have their diapers changed, and feeding them, right? And then of the 40 babies, 20 babies were brought to homes where they were loved and cuddled and given a beautiful home and a secure family. And then the other 20 babies remaining were brought to a sterile hospital type environment where they had caregivers that were more like nurses that would come in at specific intervals when they heard the babies cry, and they would bathe them, they would feed them, they would change them, and take care of any of their physiological needs. They were told, don't look at the babies, don't talk to the babies, don't touch the babies for any more than is required by the actual task. And after 4 months, the experiment had to be completely stopped because 10 of those babies died. And before those babies died, the babies, of course, they wanted attention, they wanted love, they wanted affection. Each time that they cried out for their caregivers and the caregiver would, brush away or ignore them, the babies would reach out desperately, like, pay attention to me, look at me, love me, right? And at some point, just before those babies died, it was noticed that the babies stopped that behavior. They gave up trying to make that bid for attention, that bid for affection. So after 4 months, this horrific experiment was stopped. And there were 2 babies that were rescued, supposedly, by bringing them into loving homes and that same type of environment that the first group of 20 babies were brought into. But unfortunately, they also died as well. So it is clear that we need love, we need affection. And if you grew up in a family where that was not something that was in large supply, then you learn to rely on your survival abilities. And most kids don't have free access to drinking or drugs, but food is in large supply. So if you're struggling with food, if you're struggling with binging, if you're feeling angry with yourself because you're overeating, especially at this time where there's so much panic and so much fear going on, this is what's happening. All of your sensory awareness is being triggered to feel unsafe. I'll give you an example. The last time I went shopping with Angel, probably about 2 months ago, we both went to Walmart. And at the time, restrictions were not as stringent. I had a mask, but because the mask didn't fit properly, I kind of didn't wear it because not many other people were wearing masks. And maybe it wasn't the smartest thing, but okay anyway. So I didn't have a mask, I just had gloves. Today, we went to the local Stop and Shop, and Angel gave me a mask that he had bought for me, and I put it on. And the first thing I noticed was, first of all, that it was so tight and it was hard to breathe and it was hot. And it brought up feelings of claustrophobia. And I've never known that I had problems with claustrophobia. But by the time that we spent probably going through Stop and Shop for maybe 20 minutes or so, I was in a panic. Standing there at the supermarket, putting the groceries on the checkout, every single candy, every single cookie looked good to me. And generally, these things don't bother me at all. I wanted Reese's, I wanted Swedish Fish, I wanted, what else? Dots. I mean, things that I don't even eat. I wanted to eat. So my point is this: when you see that you are having this kind of panic response where you basically want to eat everything that is nailed down, I want you to think about those 20 babies that were in that sterile hospital environment where all they were given was the barest of necessity, just survive. Okay? So if you have a background history of being abused or mental illness, or there was substance abuse in your home, you know what it's like not to feel grounded and safe. You know what it's like not to feel safe in your body. You know what it's like to feel like you need something outside of yourself to rely on to give you that sense of, okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. So maybe it is that Snickers bar, maybe it is that, candy that you got, maybe it is that brownie, whatever it is, that is your version of a pacifier. And I don't want you smacking yourself around because you are struggling with feeling overwhelmed because there are so many situations that are happening nowadays, especially where that panic button in you, that part of your brain, the amygdala, that warning center in your brain is going insane, telling you red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert, danger, danger. Remember Lost in Space? Danger, Will Robinson, danger. And I know that if you're coming from that type of history where you either endured physical violence or sexual violence or had a neglectful parent or two, or grew up without a parent, then you understand how frightening it can be. But you also have to develop like a sort of kind of hard core, a feeling like I'm tough and I can take this kind of thing. But what I want you to understand is that when you're reaching for that food, and you're probably not hungry because you just ate, a big meal or whatever it is, when you're reaching for that food and oh yeah, this is that situation. This is because I'm reaching for that pacifier. I'm reaching for that sense of like, it's kind of like a life raft, really. When you're doing that, instead of judging yourself, instead of being hard on yourself, just be kind. Think about those 20 babies, 10 of whom died within 4 months. Okay? You know what that's like to fight for survival. You know what that's like to live through circumstances that you have. So the fact that you are struggling a little bit with food right now, and you might be gaining weight, and you might be noticing that you're eating more than before, don't freak out about it. It's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now, here's what I wanted to share with you, is that when you punish yourself, when you shame and blame and try and guilt yourself into submission, and with the intention of trying to modify and change your behavior, when you do that, you're only keeping the cycle of shame and guilt going, because it's so much of like a reflection of the type of abuse that you have endured. So it keeps that same type of cycle going, where the more you punish yourself, the angrier you are, the needier you will feel, that yearning of wanting to get some kind of comfort, like those babies who were desperately reaching, making those bids for attention and affection from those sterile nurses, going, pay attention to me, love me, want me. That, that. That's you. That's you reaching for the extra food. So if you can put that in your thoughts and see yourself in those times as that precious little child who needs that affection, you can then look at yourself and your actions from a place of compassion and realize, oh wow, I'm really not hungry. And by having that layer of awareness, then you can understand that that was an emotional need that you're attempting to fill in a physical way, and we can't do that. So I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted you to think about that, because I know that many of you have been struggling with feeling very, very angry with yourselves about the fact that you've gained weight, and you notice that you've gained weight, and you're eating poor quality foods and other things. And like I said, I'm in the same boat with you. I've probably gained a couple of pounds. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm also not freaked out about it, because I know that I've already started making the changes, because once I had that first awareness that I wasn't responding with all of this, around COVID, I'm a really sensitive person. I'm a really emotional person. And my way of releasing my emotions in the most natural way possible is to cry, is to sit and cry. And when I reached, like about a week and a half ago, when I reached for that stale potato chip, I knew that bag of potato chips was stale because I think I had bought it like a month earlier or so. And when I took that first bite, I knew, blech, come on, Andrea, you can do better than this. And I kind of looked at what it was that I was eating from the perspective of an observer, from a perspective of a loving, compassionate observer. And I saw those stale potato chips, and I saw the orange jelly candies, and I saw the popcorn, and I said, wow, what's going on? This is like a kid's meal. Like, what's going on? And that's when I realized the thing I was missing was that yearning to cry. And up until that point, I had not felt, I don't know if it was a question of safety or what it was, but I didn't feel like that comfort in being able to cry. And the next morning after meditating, then finally I read an article, and it started, it gave me a little bit of an opportunity to cry a little bit, and it felt so, so good. And since then, I have been a lot more honest about my feelings, sharing them with you and also sharing them with my family. And as I continue to do that, I'm nudging myself more into the direction of higher levels of self-care. The other day, I made a big pot of soup, and it took me several hours, and I was like painstakingly, lovingly chopping up the vegetables and going through the refrigerator and making choices, and like sauteing the vegetables and just enjoying every step of the process, because it brought me home. It brought me to a memory of cooking with my Nana and the love and affection that I had from her. So the message is, when you see yourself reaching for that food, when you notice the pounds are creeping up and you're gaining weight, first of all, how about we talk about this tomorrow? And that is not to get on the scale. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But when you notice evidence of weight gain and binge eating, the way that you can begin the natural reversal of it is to take an attitude of curiosity and compassion, self-compassion for you. You are worth it. Okay, have a great day. Bye now.